I think we couldn't talk about agents without talking about MCP. This is one of the power aspects that enables a lot of what's going on is that model context protocol is going to give your session the ability to reach out and use tools. And I think you need to understand that most MCP services, servers, etc., can run locally. So you download and install some package locally, and usually you define that in your configuration for your various agentic tool. And then it can access some local resource or could access some remote resource. But that gives you the ability then to create custom MCPs that may interact with your own environment. I've got one installed on my system that's really powerful called Serena that actually launches language servers for various tooling and can actually answer questions about the structures of your code using the language servers. There's also interesting ones that are out there around documentation. So if you wanted to have an MCP server that could respond about all the knowledge of the AWS world, there's an MCP server from Amazon that actually gives you all of the documentation for all the Amazon stuff, correct or not, into your chat. Another really fun one is Playwright. So Microsoft released a Playwright MCP server that can control your browser and actually grab context from various web pages. I did want to show a quick demo of that. It's pretty powerful. So we're going to actually, I've got the Goose GUI up. Goose comes in two flavors. There's a GUI and then there's the CLI version of this. But I'm going to ask it, oops, to open LinkedIn and search for Calvin Hendryx-Parker. So given that Playwright is enabled as an extension in Goose, it will now know that I've got a tool that can actually browse the web. And I didn't say anything special like, use the Playwright to open up LinkedIn. I just said, open LinkedIn and go search for Calvin Hendricks Parker. What we're going to see here is it's actually going to analyze the DOM on the page, and then it's going to try and go to the people page. Oh, is it not going to do it? Of course, the demo is like demo guys aren't favorable to me right now. Uh, Earlier, it would actually fill in the blanks on the page. And if you've tried a browser like Comet from Perplexity right now, basically it enables that level of AI interaction with those web pages, and you can drive the web pages from the chat or even with a voice chat. Of course, the one time I do it during the demo here, it didn't want to work. I want to give it one more go because who knows? Maybe it'll work
Just a
this time.
question for you, Kelvin.
Yeah.
How do you handle permissions? Like, is that a consideration in the MCP world, or is it something that's not really being looked at too deeply right now?
So for us, like, well, I'll show. There's some interesting ones like Fireflies has an MCP server, and it enables OAuth. Of course, it wants me to log in. Boy, it failed twice now. I thought I had a real good go at it this time, uh, but it's asking me if it wants to like log in. It seems like it's requiring a login for people search. So that's a boo. Let's see if it goes back to the homepage again. So it's trying hard here actually to get back and find me multiple ways. So it's actually scraping LinkedIn. But for example, the Fireflies MCP server has an OAuth login. So the first time you launch your Goose chat, for example, with Fireflies, it will ask you to authenticate and then use your OAuth permissions to grant certain rights and privileges to the system. Of course, now Goose is wanting to like do all the things. So given that you can now authorize for remote services, that doesn't help you when you're working against local tools. Like
Mm.
those local tools, you're not having an OAuth permission you're granting to a local thing. It just has access to your local system or whatever that MCP server is. So make sure you're only using trusted MCP servers. So that was an interesting example of using Playwright to drive a browser to make this go. This is actually what I already went over is basically you can have those assistants sitting in there, knowledgeable, have extra context. You can think of them kind of like a RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation on steroids and highly tuned to what you need.